Welcome everyone and good afternoon. Thank you for joining us today for the Texas AEL Manager Monday. I love the title and I love the song that was played earlier to motivate us. Lack of creativity on my part, I named this Ability to Benefit Part 1. But really it's a bit Ability to Benefit 101. So we're just going to go through the information of what is ability to benefit. Next slide, please. I have a couple of learning objectives. I'd like for you to be able to learn and be able to describe what is ability to benefit, and then how does it pertain to your adult ed program. Also, we're going to examine, be able to identify any relevant IETs that you might have that may align for ability to benefit programs. And participants will be able to develop a plan for discussion with an institution of higher ed on ability to benefit. The key component here is a relationship or a partnership with a college in order to implement or fully implement the ability to benefit program. Just to get us started, let's just take a little poll. Based on what you know and where you're at right now, yes or no, ability to benefit programming is necessary in order to assist more students most in need. So the result is 93% of you say yes, ability to benefit is necessary in order to assist more students that are most in need. So you may not need this workshop, because this is what this workshop is about, just to figure out what is ability to benefit and how can we serve more students, particularly those students most in need. One more poll that I have, and again, it's a yes or no question. And this one is, I am aware at this point in time of how many students in my community who do not have a high school diploma, particularly students that are older. The census counts those that are 25 and older without a high school diploma. So do you know your population right now in your community of how many students do not have a high school diploma? So about 24% of us know how many students in our community do not have a high school diploma, and about 76% do not know. And it is on the census, the latest census for your community, or perhaps your city's website page or your county's website page. However, it'll become critical as ability to benefit and you making a contribution to your community to helping those students without a high school diploma. So again, this is ability to benefit programming 101. In a nutshell, ability to benefit provides financial aid. It provides financial aid to students. Ooh, let me take off my PO now, sorry. It provides financial aid to students who do not have a high school diploma or its recognized equivalent, so who doesn't have a GED as well. Students without a high school credential can enroll under ability to benefit and apply financial aid. So this is an alternative pathway to accessing financial aid. This is the federal financial aid program. Of course, there's criteria that must be met. The criteria that has to be met, students must complete one of the following: either pass an independently administered test approved by the U.S. Department of Ed, and at the end of this slide deck, I have a link to that federal register that has the approved test, or, and it's an or because it's just one of these, complete 6 credit hours or 225 clock hours applicable toward a degree or certificate offered by an institution of higher ed, or complete a state process approved by the Secretary of Education, which is a state-defined process. And in Texas, we do not have option 3. So option 3 is off the table. So it would be either option 1 or 2. Okay. And also the independently administered test was revised, I think it was in October last year, and you'll see the TSI as one of the approved tests. Before everybody gets excited, that was the old TSI, not the new TSIA, which went into effect January the 12th this year. So then students must be enrolled in career pathway program and an eligible career pathway program. And we'll talk about that in a bit. And students will be concurrently enrolled in the connected adult education program and a college eligible career pathway program. Just by the show of hands, how many of you are housed at a college, a community college or a college, university? I see one, I see two. Folks, about 3 people on the call are housed. So you're about 4 people is what I see. Okay, thank you all. So your partnership would be across departments, and we'll talk about that in just a bit. So the gist of it is the financial aid process. Students must complete, just like any other student, their federal student aid, that application for federal student aid, which is the FAFSA, known as the FAFSA. Any outstanding verification or application validation items are required, and they have to meet the federal aid eligibility requirements, that of being a U.S. citizenship or federal aid eligible non-citizen, have a valid social security number, and completed selected service requirements. And then all coursework covered by financial aid must meet courses in program of study. So that's what they call CPOS guidelines. And that is a sequence of courses. And if you've heard of guided pathways, well, we have guided pathways, which allow students to identify all the courses in that sequence in order to get them from point A to point B. And what financial aid is saying now, it's if you deviate, financial aid may not pay for that. So the bottom link is that Dear Colleague letter that was issued in 2016 that describes the entire ability to benefit. Just some background on ability to benefit for those that are my age. It had started way back when, I think in the early 90s, if I recall, and then it stopped in 2012. And then it was brought back in 2015, 2016, and so that's what we're seeing now. So this one is the eligible career pathway, and this is where we get the most questions, but the federal guidelines identified 7 elements of a career pathway, and we'll go through them in just a minute. But 2 of those seven elements actually focus on adult ed and that Title IV eligible post-secondary program working together. So adult education is defined as the same as in WIOA, or the Workforce Investment Opportunity Act, must be designed so students can participate in both components. At Alamo colleges, we do not have our adult ed program, the area adult ed program housed at Alamo colleges. So we go externally. And so Region 13, I'm sorry, that's Austin. Region 20 is our partner for our adult ed programming. So key components in a pathway, and I just pulled these out of the 7. They align with the skills needs of industries in the local, state, or regional economy. So, high demand, high wage, includes counseling, or we call it advising, in an institution of higher ed to support the student's education and career goals. It enables a student to be concurrently enrolled in the career pathway and adult ed program, or its recognized equivalents, right? High school diploma. Students are not restricted. This is just one item in the federal ruling, not restricted to that specific career pathway identified for ability to benefit enrollment once the student obtains their high school equivalency. Here are the 7 items, and this comes straight from that Dear Colleague letter. And so you'll see the 4 that I just pulled out, but you'll also see, the prepares the students to be successful in any of a full range of secondary or post-secondary options. It organizes education, training, and other services to meet the particular needs of an individual, that accelerates the education career advancement, or it also, helps an individual enter or advance within a specific occupation or occupational cluster. And we call them guided pathways, or at Alamo, which we Alamoize everything, we call them Alamo Institutes. So just a quick question. What does this sound like? Does this look familiar?
We have someone that said, Jacqueline says IETs.
Yes.
Question mark?
Yes, exactly. That's a good one. Doesn't it sound familiar that you're to provide this support for this student? Yeah, your IETs do that as well. It's awfully critical to establish partnerships. Oh, I'm sorry, just ability to benefit programs. So if you're thinking about it, here's a summary of the student requirements. They don't have a high school diploma or its equivalency. They have to meet FAFSA and fill out the FAFSA application. They have to complete that test. And we use at Alamo, and I'll go through this in a minute, the AccuPlacer. Or they have to have completed 6 credit hours. They have to enroll in a career pathway program. And they have to enroll or continue enrollment in their adult education program, continuing to work on their GED or their high set. So it's awfully critical to have partnerships internally, externally. It takes a village to do this ability to benefit program. So of course, it's the AEL program. It's the director, it's the IET coordinator, or the workforce director or coordinator. I think I left off a word there. The institution of higher ed, IATs, the community college, the career and technical education programs. There's always a dean overseeing that or a chairperson of that particular program. Your college in-house adult education literacy program. We actually have an adult education literacy program in Alamo colleges. Again, it's not the grantee for the state funding, but it is one of the consortium members. And then your admissions and registrar, it takes a long time to get someone to fill out the application and get through admissions. For us, it was an issue because we didn't have a way to enroll students without a high school diploma. So we had to go backwards and make sure our banner system, that's what we use, would admit students without a high school diploma. And then our financial aid office, our director has been great. They must be in the know. Our testing, do you have the ability to test or the capacity to test or your community college to test? And then of course, advising or your career navigators. And then we have an economic workforce development department. So those that are in-house adult ed programs, what do you have internally that you could partner with as far as another department? Employers, the industry associations, your local workforce boards, your workforce solutions, your social service agencies, lots of nonprofits out there, foundations and advocacy organizations. These are all critical partners to helping us not only outreach and recruit students without a high school diploma, but also to keep them on track and support the student through their certificate, obtaining their certificate level 1 or continuing their education at a community college. So just a quick summary of what Alamo Colleges does. We had an admissions process that didn't take someone without a high school diploma. So we had to go back to all 5 colleges. And just a quick background on Alamo Colleges District, we have 5 independently accredited colleges. Our banner system is 1. So they redid the Apply Texas, and now our ATV students are to fill out the Apply Texas in order to move forward with the enrollment process, but now it does take someone without a high school diploma. We said that we would take anyone 18 years of age or over. They have to be concurrently enrolled in an adult ed program. Internally, in-house, we have a couple of them at a few of our colleges. We have one at San Antonio College and one at Palo Alto College, or externally, any of the consortium members throughout San Antonio. they have to pass a federally approved assessment. So at Alamo colleges, we use the ATB AccuPlacer, and I believe that is what it's called. And there's a certain score for it. And again, at the end of the slide deck, I have that resource for you, the Federal Register that lists all the approved tests. And they have to enroll in a certificate or degree program in a actual career pathway or one of those guided pathways that we have. For us, we decided that we would take a student, submit a score report indicating all but 2 components have been completed. This allows that commitment of that student to continue. So it's not a brand new student to GED or your GED program or GED prep program. So this is someone who has thought about going to college and has a few GED components or HiSET components under their belt, but they're only lacking 1 or 2 components. So that's what Alamo Colleges does. So we envision at Alamo Colleges, and I see that Carrie Rhodes is here, and Restore Education is a wonderful partner for us, an adult education literacy partner. And next in August, we'll talk about the details of what collaboration we have with Restore Education as far as all the details of ability to benefit and how they worked on a pathway for their students. But in essence, right now, we're working on this draft that we have what we call stackable credentials. We would love for students to be able to see clear pathways between among their programs, and where they can jump on or jump off at any point in time, depending on what's going on in their lives. So a stackable credential, someone could start in your program and then work through the workforce degree program. And if they don't have a high school degree, they could actually enroll for our certificate level 1. And then those courses in that certificate level 1 would count for the level 2 as far as their course sequence. So they don't have to retake a course or lose hours. And then they can move on to their Associates of Applied Science. And then there's a couple of universities in our area that do take an Associates of Applied Science. So this is just a draft of a visual we're envisioning. And the next slide, this is what we're working on. We're working on identifying these workforce programs that have these level 1 certificates that align to the adult education literacy industry clusters that you have. For example, we're working on a community health worker level 1 certificate, which we have in place. It's in the health industry, and it's, for us, our guided pathways, it's in the health and biosciences. And what we're doing is ensuring that those courses that people start off with in that level 1 certificate and moving on to level 2, they wouldn't have to repeat it if level 2 requires the same course, and then so forth and so on throughout that pathway. Phlebotomy is another level 1 certificate in our health. IT is huge, so the information technology, cybersecurity, we have a level 1 certificate in cyber defense cyber defense alone, and then information assurance and cyber security, just a different name, and then computer support specialist, and then a construction technology. And we have these housed at various colleges, and it falls under our institute or our guided pathway of science and technology. And then, of course, manufacturing, logistics management and manufacturing maintenance, and advanced manufacturing and logistics. This is just a work in progress. This is all in draft form, but we're trying to have identified some areas that are already high demand, high wage jobs, or that can move forward and act as a stackable credential to the next level of credential. So a student, as you can see, can start off without a high school credential and basically go work their way through an Associates of Applied Science. We also figured that if we identify some program areas that are high wage, high demand, we can work with the colleges in assuring that their courses aren't 3 semesters long or what have you, that they're 1 semester and people and adult learners can move through quickly. So that we're working with faculty at this point to redesign, if you will, our workforce, our career technical education workforce programs. Any questions on that? I think I'll stop here and you can put it in the chat if you like. If anyone has worked in academics, this is a slow process, but it's a necessary process and we're all working toward that. At Alamo Colleges District, we are very committed to having stackable credentials in our workforce programs and allowing our adult learners to enroll and be able to find a clear pathway in the area of their interests to pursue either certificates or a degree. Okay, there doesn't seem to be any questions. So,
yeah, no questions yet.
So,
okay, we do have a question. So the AccuPlacer or the TSIA2 are the 2 test options?
The AccuPlacer, ask that again, I'm sorry.
So the AccuPlacer or the TSIA2 are the 2 test options?
No, there's several options. If we can go and open that web page, Olga, to the last slide or one of the last slides, that list of approved tests.
Okay, is this it? Approved?
That's the Federal Register. If you scroll down, it'll tell you. That was in November of 2020 when they updated it. Go all the way down. Here are the approved tests. So it's Wonderlic, the basic skills test, and there's the passing scores, right? And then they have the Spanish one. And then here's the AccuPlacer companion. So there's that. And then the Texas Success Initiative assessment, but it's the first version, not the second version. So that would be last year's version, not this year's. Okay.
So TSIA, not TSIA2 at this time.
Correct. At this time. Yeah. In speaking to the Texas Education Higher Coordinating Board, they did say they want to expedite this so they can move forward to including TSIA2, which would be great. Then the student can have the capacity or be eligible for more programs with having completed the TSIA. Okay. Does that answer that question? You're welcome.
Yes, thank you, she says.
Okay, great. All right. So this is what, and again, in draft form for Alamo, just to make sure we have that clear stackable credential. The next slide, I'm just going to take that poll again, but I think everybody understands that, yes, this is a program that is necessary in order to serve those most in need in our community. In San Antonio, we have a high poverty rate. And so our chancellor, who's incredible, Dr. Mike Flores, has declared a moonshot of ending or eradicating poverty in our city through education. So we want to identify the adults in our community that do not have a high school diploma and who are limited in the workforce because of that. And that way we can target an outreach to them and have them come through an education program. So would y'all agree that yes, this is totally necessary? Last time we got about 93%. So it's yes or no. We had one outlier. So that outlier, if you're still saying no, what questions can I answer for you? Just like a little pre and post for it. I think that's the majority, right?
14 out of 17. We can go ahead and end. Everybody looks like they're saying yes.
Yes.
So let's go ahead and end and share results. 100% of those that responded believe that ability to benefit programming is necessary in order to assist more students.
Exactly.
In need.
In order to implement an ability to benefit, and please know, one size doesn't fit all. So it's going to look different in your community, or it can look different in your community, but you definitely can learn from those who have tried any of the lessons learned or the challenges or even successes that we've had. But in order to fully implement an ability to benefit program, there's some pre-planning that has to happen. So the background questions that you ask yourself, I've identified 7 of them, just to give yourself a little needs assessment of where you are at or your program is. Then from there, I like to do a little breakout session on steps to reaching out to the institution of higher ed and saying, hey, or reaching out to another department if you are in a college right now and initiating that discussion and saying, maybe, we should have this ability to benefit program, and how can we do this? So identifying 3 steps to reaching out to your college or a college department in order to initiate discussions, or if you haven't done that already, what were they? Just thinking about your own program. Does your program currently have students enrolled that may benefit from an ATB program? If your program currently doesn't have students enrolled, are you interested in developing a plan? And what are your program's current IETs? Would any of them align to build an ability to benefit program? And when I mean align, would they meet any of that criteria, those 7 steps, those 7 elements, excuse me? And does your program currently partner with a college or an institution of higher ed? If so, how do they partner? What's your partnership? And if not, why not? And if your program's housed within an IET, what department would you partner in order to begin the discussions about an ATB program? So I think Olga's going to break us out into some rooms.
I am. So if you would like, take a picture of the screen so that you have these questions to discuss or think about in your groups. But I've also placed them in the chat. So I'm hoping that when you go to your breakout rooms that they'll be there.
Welcome back, everyone. So we're just going to give the groups a quick opportunity to share any of the discussion. You might have, shared some of the discussion, or you might have discussed any of the 7 questions that I had here as background questions, or you might have actually gotten to identify 1 or 2 or even 3 steps to reaching out to your local college in order to initiate any discussions on the ability to benefit. So we'll start with group 1. Can you tell us, Olga, who was on group 1?
That would have been Michelle, Katchen, Stewart, or Wanda. There's Michelle. Go ahead, Michelle. You can unmute.
So we talked about one of the people was from a housing authority and one was not using ability to benefit. And I shared a little bit about when we had used ability to benefit in the past and some of the good things and some of our challenges and why we weren't using it now.
Wonderful.
So, do you want me to add more to that?
No, that's great. Thank you. That was the key points of your discussion. That's fine. Okay, so group 2. Thank you, Michelle.
And group 2 was, well, I only see Charmin. Charmin, who else was in your group? Oh, she had somebody in her. Okay. She had somebody in her. So let's do room 3. Jana, yep. Carrie, or Vonda. Does anybody from that group want to share?
I'll share. This is Jana at Howard College in San Angelo. Our school is currently not utilizing the ATB, but the other 2 members in our group are using it. We had Carrie from Alamo College, and Vonda works with Blinn College. And both programs go about it slightly different, but they seem to be successful. Blinn utilizes their workforce and their workforce board to work with the employers and do job fairs related to the survey and the needs in that local area with the jobs, high demand occupations. And Alamo colleges, they are having the students take some academic courses concurrently as they're getting their GED. Mm-hmm. So as they're taking those classes, they're getting academic credits, and then they can complete their GED, and they don't necessarily have to take all the components of the TSI, just the math part, because they are already considered college ready once they complete those reading classes. So different ways of going about it, but they both seem to be working out.
Great. Thank you. Thank you for that. All righty. Group 4.
Okay. Group 4 is Carolina, Courtney, and Heather.
Okay, I think that's me. I'm Heather Austin. I work with Community Action, and we don't specifically have an ATB program. We mostly, the curriculum is just an IET. So it's just, we throw in that ABE component, but I think we would benefit from something like this. We work with ACC. I think we've kind of tried doing this before, but it's kind of tricky because we're so rural. If you're more in an urban area, this would work, but I think this is something we should definitely try again, because we should always be trying to integrate some new stuff with our students. I think that kind of answers for me, for my area.
Okay, great. Thank you so much, Heather.
Sure.
Appreciate it. And then group 5.
Group 5 was Evangeline, Ilse, and Jacqueline.
Hi, my name is Jackie. I'm with Howard College San Angelo as well. In our group, we kind of talked about how, Elise is with Alamo Colleges as well. But I know our program's not utilizing it, as Jana said earlier. But just kind of figuring out the best steps is what we talked about on how to get it started in like successful practices. And so we really discussed, having that key person in both like AEL and your career pathway, whatever that is, and having that point of contact so that way you know who is talking with the students and necessarily what's being said. So that way you don't really confuse the student on, okay, well, we need this from you, and I know they need this. I think that's kind of where we've fallen in the past, trying to do ability to benefit here. And so we talked about having that point of contact for the person for AEL and the institution is crucial to having success.
That is a key component. Thank you for that.
Yes, and also, merging everybody together with the financial aid department also to get them all the information that they need.
Right. Sitting down and outlining the expectations of each other, right? Whether it be a different department if you're housed in a college or an external college. So, the financial aid piece is critical. So who's going to, initiate that and make sure the financial aid office is moving on the applications and following up on the applications. So following up is critical. One thing that I didn't mention is that continuing ed courses, if you start off there, and there's some ability to benefit programs that start off in continuing ed and then articulate the courses into the credit or the academic side. Continuing ed courses are not eligible for financial aid. And we'll have our financial aid director join us in Ability to Benefit Part 2 in August. So stay tuned and come back. This has been wonderful. I hope that I just provided information just to lay the groundwork of what Ability to Benefit is and how you can start initiating discussions or start thinking or start considering offering an Ability to Benefit program in your local community. So the next slide just shows a couple of resources that I have. The 2 main resources are the Dear Colleague letter, again, with all the criteria. And then that Federal Register, the list of approved tests is there as well. The next slide will show Center for Law and Social Policy. They have some resources for Ability to Benefit. And then the National Association of Adult Education Directors. And then there's a federal student aid iLibrary of Dear Colleague letters regarding financial aid. And then, of course, if you attended the COABE Ability to Benefit Virtual Symposium, as I did, a lot of this information comes from the slides that I think it was National College Transitions Network folks did. And so that was a fun and informative session. So that's my reference for this as well. Any thoughts or questions or parting thoughts or questions as we wrap up?
Go ahead, Heather. I think Heather had a thought. Go ahead, Heather.
I did. It's great though. You bringing this up is our program has really expanded due to the online classes.
Mm-hmm.
And I think this just might be able to work. And I'm glad you're bringing up this training and kind of reminding me that this is a thing we can really do. So I just want to throw that out there.
Thank you, Heather. Thank you for those comments. Thank you. Anyone else? Thought, a question, or just a parting comment? Well, I believe we are right on time to wrap up.
We are. Thank you so much, Dr. Martinez, for presenting today. And we look forward to part 2, where you bring in, I believe it's Carrie from Restore Education and your individual from financial aid. And somebody mentioned it. I just want to reiterate it again, that financial aid piece and getting with financial aid is so important.
Yes.
to this whole thing working and being able to utilize those funds, right? So again, thank you, everybody. There's a lot of thank yous. Thank you. Great reminder to explore and use the ATB with AEL, and see you next time. So thank you so much, everybody, for joining us. And we look forward to next month.
And thank you, Mary Helen, for presenting for us. We really appreciate it.